I'd like to maybe come at it a little differently today, in that I look at compassion as being our true nature. It's inherently who we are. So we don't need to really create it or manufacture it in any way. We simply can sense into it. And what I've discovered over the years of practicing with this was that I was, in my early years of practicing, I was really cut off from my true heart because there was so much, what's the word? The human heart was walled off. There was a lot of layers of protection there that I didn't even know were there. And I'd go to retreats and they'd say, bring your attention to your heart, and I'd feel actual literal physical pain in the heart space just from bringing attention to that area of the body. And that went on for some years, thinking back. And then there was one retreat I remember I went to where I left attention at the heart space throughout the retreat, and tears just, flowed down my face, and there was just this releasing and releasing of those walls that were protecting the human heart. It's the way we're kind of wired, our way of protection and survival. And once those layers started to kind of peel away, I noticed there was something deeper that was present in there that I could sense into. A level of compassion that wasn't accessible when there's so many wounds and really emotional turmoil, you could say. When that started to resolve itself, there was access to this inherent level of innate compassion. So I've always wondered how I could help other people kind of access or evoke or enliven this what I'm calling the true heart. It's really the heart of compassion, or the heart of consciousness, the heart of life, all of life. And one that came to me and I'd like to share is the notion of resting attention in the heart space and envisioning the heart really literally opening. And I personally envisioned rays of light or energy coming out of the heart space, and just envisioning that, just feeling that kind of openness to life, and allowing life to come in and go out of this human body through the heart space. And I found that really helpful, and so I did it through the week, and I found I could really sense into this innate space of compassion with that simple exercise. And we can do it any time during the day. And I think we really need to touch into this true heart. I've spoken here before about the whole notion of the humanity needing to evolve. And I think this is a big part of our evolution. And when we think back in our history, which is a history really of trying to conquer and dominate other human beings, the planet. You think of just the example of the Western countries conquering other countries and believing that they were somehow divinely enabled to do that. It was their right. These are all ways that when we're not connected to the human heart, that the the suffering that can be created for others and for the planet. So the evolution is us starting to then care for and love one another in this very deep way. Margaret Mead was asked, what was the first indicator of that humans were civilized? And you might expect when you hear that question, the development of tools, or the development of language, or these kinds of indicators. And she said there was a 15,000-year-old healed, broken femur that was discovered. So femur is like a big bone in the leg. It takes a long time to heal a broken, like a thigh bone, I guess you could call it. It takes a long time to heal the thigh bone. And the questioner said, well, I don't know, what's that? What do you mean that's the first indicator of humans being civilized? She says, well, the only way that human could heal was if other human beings looked after them for quite some time. Got food for them and helped them, get around and move about. And so that to her was the first instance where there's documented caring and love. For her, that was when first indicator of humans civilizing. And I think it's going to be the indicator for us moving forward, if we care to survive on this planet, to continue to evolve that indicator, that caring, loving quality for life, and I include everything in life. So it's imperative that we find a way to open to and tune into this essential aspect of ourselves that's there. Right? We don't have to create it. It's there. We simply have to find a way to evoke it, to sense into it, to make it our place from which we move in the world. Another practice I found really helpful was whenever I interacted with another person, to first connect with them at that level of the compassionate or true heart. So not the persona, not the mask, not the egoic sense of self, but to really just connect at that level of the true heart. Right at the outset, right? And just imagine my heart, that true heart, connected with their true heart, which they're all connected anyway. We're just kind of bringing noticing it. And then starting the conversation from that perspective, from that perception of true heart. And what you'll notice is it's a very different conversation that you'll have. I did this a few times over the week, and it was a very interesting conversation. I had to take the car in for new brakes. That's why there was a woman at the front desk, of course, and I did this practice, and we spent some large amount of time actually for this, what would normally be a simple transaction, talking about her dog Molly and her older dog and all the different things that were happening in her life. And that connection, as long as that connection remained open, we just kept talking. And she lost, I think, track of the time, and so did I. And we had a beautiful a beautiful time together. When you do this practice, a funny thing will happen. What you'll notice is those kinds of beautiful conversations. But you'll also notice when if the connection is severed, you'll notice it immediately. And the connection can be severed if you say something that's untrue, perhaps, or the egoic mind decides it needs to, get on with its day, perhaps. I've got all these important things to do, or, something like that. And you'll notice in that instant when that energetic connection is severed, is lost. And you can go, oh, wow, this is back to ego. I'm back to ego land. This is what ego land feels like, and this is what true connection feels like. And you'll notice right away. It may happen quickly. You could come into a conversation and feel the connection, and then something happens or is said, and you'll feel the connection get severed, and that's fine. You can move on with your day, or you could try to reestablish this deeper connection. So that's another practice that I found really resonated and showed me what we're talking about here. When we talk about compassion, is actually sensing into unity, sensing into interconnection. It's not just words, right? You hear these words, we're all one, unity, and so on. You hear all. They're not just words. We can actually sense into our inner connection. You can really feel into it. And to me, that's the most powerful practice. So we can do that here, even on a Zoom screen. Right? You can sense into the connection with the little squares. We all have different looking faces, but ultimately we're all just the same. I'm looking at me. I'm not looking at you. There's no separation. I'm just looking at me. That's the level of connection. So realizing no self, or realizing a non-separation, is really realizing this. Realizing compassion. Realizing that your true nature is this compassion, and it is simply clouded over because we think we're separate. Bringing our attention to our innate compassion, bringing our attention to our heart space, is really the most precious gift we can offer to the world. Most precious gift. I know many people in Dharma circles and spiritual communities are always looking for ways to contribute to the world, to do good works in the world. Sometimes we don't know what to do. Right? There's just so many things that sometimes it feels like, oh, there's so many things that need to be done, right? That in this world, there's poverty, there's climate change, there's just so much that we might not know, might feel like, oh, what do I do? I think the most precious gift is getting in touch with our true heart and allowing our life to flow from our connection with that place. So then there's nothing to figure out, right? We're not trying to figure out what to do. Simply connecting with our true heart and allowing from whatever comes out of that connection, that sense of unity, of non-separation, whatever comes out of that to be our expression in the world. So that's the biggest gift. It's just connecting and with that with true compassion, with our true heart. Yeah, so 2 simple practices. Resting awareness in the heart space. I invite you to do that as a meditation practice for a week. So I would just imagine dropping my attention from the head to the heart. So connecting with the true heart space, envisioning the heart opening and perhaps rays of light coming out of the chest, or energy coming out of the heart space. Light feels like light, it seems like light. It's like light behind the human heart. The true heart is like light. And then just as a third one was just connecting with people at that energetic level of the true heart.